All right, and welcome to what is very important. I think we've got Chris Roberts and Tony Z in the same room together. They developed, I don't know if this is a series that's going to continue. I would love if it did. It's called Pillar Talk, and we're going to watch it here with our audience. Let's get moving.
I'm not going to.
The camera's already rolling, so it's
Right.
just.
Are we ready?
Yeah, we're doing it. Let's do it. We're doing it right now. This is literally the show. This
Amazing.
This
sounds very Seinfeldian. We're done.
It's a show about nothing. All right.
I have a lot of respect for Tony Z. Now, Tony Z, hopefully he's going to get into specifics. Tony Z, he generally talks a hell of a lot more specifics and gameplay than Chris ever does. Chris is a big picture guy. Tony Z tends to be like, here's your details. They're a good mesh. They're a good team together. What's up, Spartan? How you doing? I had to, dude, because I was excited about this.
So gentlemen, welcome to the first Pillar Talk. So this is a quarterly show. We've been talking a lot about doing different types of video content. We have Inside Star Citizen. And so that show we kind of defined as like the what, if you will, Inside Star Citizen, where this is going to be where we talk
Green
about the
screen
why.
technical
It's meant to
difficulty.
be with our pillar directors or folks leading the pillars with Chris to talk a little bit more about the why.
Talk about that, like when we say pillar directors, I know we
We throw a lot of terms.
So
Sounds a bit
pillar
sexual.
directors and really
Pillar Talk sounds a little bit sexual. I think it's okay, though. I'm going to let it pass.
core part is the gameplay pillar directors.
Right.
So these are the people that have made games, worked in the business for a long time. I intimately trust to make really good decisions at a high quality level. Star Citizen and Squadron's so big and has so many aspects because, it's an FPS game, it's a flight sim, it's a space sim. I mean, basically, in every game, throw it together and put it in a sci-fi world. It's very easy to get lost in the minutiae and the just sheer scale of what we're trying to do here. But that's what pillar directors are, and that's why this is called Pillar Talk.
And so I guess to open this up in 3 points.
Chris is the big picture guy, right? Chris is just talking about all the big picture stuff. I hope we're going to talk about gameplay and mechanics. I'm sure we will.
Since we're going to talk a lot about the upcoming release, what in 3.6 kind of is exciting to you? Is there anything that stands out? I know there's a lot, but what is something that stands out to you? Tony, what about you?
I think on the gameplay system side, obviously, the law system would be a huge win to get that out the door with 3.6.
All right, let's get some law
It
system.
gives a pretty large foundation on which to build for the future and a means to serve as a counterweight for all of these undesirable player actions that in the past have been largely left unattended. It's been up to other players to deal with them.
Sure.
And now with 3.6,
They're making it look so good, and the AI still needs tons of work. So critical, it's a little bit critical that they get the AI worked out. It's very sloppy right now. I hope they talk a little bit about AI in here too.
we're delivering the first iteration of something that we're going to continue to do extensive evolution and development on this feature for the next several quarters.
So the question would be then in 3.6, what are the first things of the law system that people are going to get to experience?
Yeah.
One of the first things that they'll see is a greater breadth of laws. We've got 19 different laws on the books, everything from murder,
All right.
possession of stolen goods, transportation of illicit products. Previous to this, you bought something.
And that's interesting too, because on the last Star Citizen review, I think it was like 2 episodes ago, they were talking about, illicit goods. They were talking about introducing these into the economy. So they're also going to do it with the law system as well. I believe this was on the roadmap as well. This is great.
And the only reason it was technically yours
19 different laws. 19, I think he said. Did he include murder?
was because we stowed it on your ship. But if another player blew your ship up and took the goods or snuck on your ship, took them, did whatever, there was no repercussions. They could go sell it, get full price. Now with 3.6, when you buy something, unless you actually grant it to someone else, if someone else has possession of that, they're very limited in what they can do with it. You can't go to a normal law-abiding shop and unload all of this stolen cargo. You have to go to salvage yards, or you have to go to fences.
Yeah, okay. Now he's talking about different areas where you have to unload these illicit goods, but a good question is, all right, we have one system. We have one system that we're playing right now. So probably what? Probably they're going to use Hex, I'd imagine.
And
So in
obviously,
3.6, where would that be? Grim Hex?
yeah, we're still playing with the exact location. Right
All
now,
right.
we're debating whether it's 1 or 2 in each planetary system. I like the idea of making them a little bit more rare. And part of that's because I want there to be fewer places where you can unload illicit merchandise. The prices will be a fraction of what you get for legitimate goods. And of course, you also have to deal with the risk of any security agents that come across you during your travels. Every player is going to have to do the mental calculus.
The amount of work they're going to have to do in system with ships flying around you, being able to scan you, very similar to like an Elite Dangerous, what we're used to, is kind of what Tony, I think, is talking about. in order for the game experience to be good, they're going to have kind of have this seamless integration of ships flying around you and being able to scan and check out your cargo hold. So this is something I'm not quite sure it's going to be in 3.6. If it is, I would be really shocked and I'd be very happy if they did. And they should actually bump up the rewards for the illicit goods as well in Hex. So for instance, you're going to Jumptown, you're grabbing your Widow, all your illegal substances, and then when you go to Hex, there should be quite a significant increase in the goods. And of course, if you're going to Ollie or places that are UEE controlled, you're not going to be able to sell them at all, I would imagine. And I also got to support the player-to-player interaction as well. I think that there should be player-to-player interaction as far as like the goods being sold to other people. Stolen goods should not be sold for less if it's a high-risk environment. It should be sold for more. I think they're doing that at HexSap. It was interesting. I don't know if he slipped right there. But he did say sell for less, but I think he was talking about like in UEE controlled territories, but it should still be sold for more.
But they have the choice, so they basically can lose their goods, pay the fine, or start to fight.
And then this whole security apparatus comes in to where more security reinforcements, interceptors, et cetera, pull. You've been dampened so that you can't basically jump out of the area, et cetera, et cetera. Prisons, which is where we want to.
Prisons. Okay, well let's get to that after this, but they're going to talk about ships dampening other ships, which I've yet to see, but that would be pretty cool gameplay if they could do that.
To go somewhere within the next couple of quarters. Once
Prisons.
We've arrested a player, then we put you on,
you
within some sort of penal
respawn
colony.
in your nice home. We want to have consequences where people make judgment calls.
That's always a recurring theme with this game. It's such a big, extensive, open-ended sandbox. We're doing it.
Oh, that's what they meant, Spartan. Okay, good. Yeah. So I think what he was referring to is I think Saps misunderstood. I did as well. So what we're saying is if somebody is actually selling stolen property, so we're going back to stolen property. We're not talking about illicit goods or drugs, selling the drugs. What Tony was referring to was actually like stolen goods. So like you steal somebody's cargo, and you're trying to resell that cargo and they know it's hot, then you would take like a small loss. Or a ship, for instance, like we use that as an example. You steal a ship, you try and sell the ship that's a hot ship. Well, like in real life, you would take that ship and sell it to a chop shop. The chop shop's not going to give you like top dollar for the car because it's stolen, that type of thing. Now, as far as illicit goods like drugs, those types of things should be sold at premium dollar everywhere you go.
Everything possible to give players the freedom to play the game however they want. But with all of this stuff, whether it's your equipment or your action towards other players and NPCs and stuff like that, there are always very definable consequences, repercussions.
Let me pause it. Thank you for that donation. Thank you very much, Colleen. 500 biddies coming in like a boss. Thank you so much, Colleen. It's so good to see you.
The actions you're going to take within the game.
Does this mean murdering someone doesn't carry the same penalty as parking my spaceship slightly incorrectly now?
Yeah, so
Zero tolerance society. Violations are just like, well, it's like a parking ticket, right? You got to pay it. And then certain violations are like, people are coming after you.
Well, we've introduced the concept of a jurisdiction, which is really just an area of space that specifies what laws apply within that area and the associated penalties.
If you have a parking violation on Hurston, you don't have bounty hunters chasing you all over.
That's exactly it. Law enforcement would only care about you in proximity to Hurston.
That'd be a great one, a vehicle. Yeah.
Content-wise,
Boy, that's going to be interesting how they're going to implement that kind of game mechanic. That if you're in Hurston, you commit some type of crime in Hurston, that locally it's going to be a lot rougher than in another system, for instance. So that's going to be an interesting game dynamic. Ships and vehicles.
The Merlin, not a full rework, it's just bringing it up to modern standards. It's quite an old ship. We've got the Archimedes, which is a variant of it. So that's sort of the racing version. It's got a really nice white clear coat finish to it. We've got the Vanguard.
Got a clear coat on the Merlin.
Just tidy up a little bit.
I love the Vanguard Warden. It's one of my favorite ships.
Vanguard owners will now actually have something that looks like a concept.
I think about 10% of the interior is left from the original, and about 20% of the exteriors.
How did we get to that?
We were talking last night on the Inside Star Citizen review, and we were talking about if we like the treads on the bottom of the Vanguard Warden. I'd like to see your comments down below in the video if you dig the treads. We're not quite sure about the treads.
Like, what made us make that much change to it?
The Vanguard that was in game didn't really match up to the concept, which was much more beefy. This sort of like heavy long range fighter.
Sure.
Went back
right. Going back to that conversation, Sap says, I mean, there's also the concept of them doing a bounty hunting thing, which could add even more risk to doing the crime. Based on what you've done, you get a higher bounty on your head. So that whole law system that they were mentioning is going to include, bounties locally with NPCs as well. Those bounties also carry on over for the player as well. So if a player is killing you, you're going to get the reward as well. It's okay, Colleen. It's cool. It's cool. You don't know anything about Star Citizen. Just watch the show a little bit. Just chill out. Thanks for those bits too, by the way. We appreciate you.
Concept to try to really nail it. We've got
it's
all
okay, Red.
Cool little bits.
It's okay. Welcome to the show, Red.
Coming out, or like even like headlights popping up.
It's one of those things where you start pulling away bits, more and more comes with it, and before you know it's like, right,
let's do it right.
Do it wholesale.
That's great. Yes or no answer is acceptable here, John. There are things not on the roadmap for vehicles and ships.
Absolutely, yeah. As we
you give as many details as you want to give us. That's safe that can be said in here.
As we did last year with the Valkyrie and Arrow, our first two ships that went from concept straight through the pipeline. The Valkyrie people didn't know about until they walked through the doors at CitizenCon.
You know what Red says? Your wish has come true. It has. We were complaining for a while that the Star Citizen review shows weren't giving us enough of these details, and they came out with Pillar Talk today, and I was like, I have to stream this for you guys. So I'm very excited about this.
I saw it plastered on the walls.
What's that ship?
What's that ship?
Yeah, that's
and then they saw it in the demo. Almost certainly would be more things like that.
Beautiful. That's great.
Our long-term goal is to sort of move towards more straight to playable stuff if we can. I mean, obviously we don't have, our vehicle team is decent size, but it's not enough to get everything done. So we're still going to have a balance of some stuff that's sort of a bit more longer term, and then some stuff that would be playable. But as we move forward and as we get the vehicle team staffed up a bit more, our plan is to shift to basically, nope, here's the new ship. You can play it in the game right now. So there'll be a few surprises this year.
Yeah, good.
There you go.
Is there anything else you're excited about?
Yeah, I'd say the other thing.
Did he just say that they're planning on getting it to the point where they design the ship and boom, it's playable? That would be really cool. Like that also has to do with actually behind the scenes stuff. They should actually design the ship, get everything done ahead of time behind the scenes, and then release it once it's playable in the game. That's just something that should have happened from the very first start. What's up, Crom? How you doing? You're watching from driving from work. Careful in your car, bro. Careful from the car, man.
Which we don't call out as big of a feature, but the FOIP and VOP stuff.
Oh my God. As a content creator, I'm actually down with this. I love the FOIP features. Being able to move your face and your camera's picking it up and it goes through into the game is something I've always loved. And they shut it down on this build. And it's horrible because I wanted to create more episodes for you where I'm in game talking. I always thought that was fun to do. And I was just so pissed off when they did that. Not a lot of people got upset about it. I got upset about it. I'm like, bring the FOIP back. So hopefully they're going to bring it back.
For this release finally should get to the point where you can hail other ships. Cool. So when you're out in space and you see someone, you can talk to them. And you will have a separate channel to talk to your squad mates or teammates and stuff.
That's cool.
So I think there was one patch where we had the FOIP and everyone had a great time, but then we turned it off because we were getting crashes that were kind of hard to track down. But this release, we should have most of that sorted out and taken care of.
That's cool.
Yeah, so I'm hoping to see a lot more use because the feature's great as long as people are using it.
Right, and this functionality, there's loads of areas where we want to start expanding the use. The service beacons are one where it's an implied, contract between two players, and so it makes perfect sense that if you're requesting fuel, or requesting combat assistance, or whatever it may be,
Tony Z with the details
from another player, that you want a dedicated communication channel so that you tell him the specifics of what you're after.
A lot of focus is
awesome.
How can we make players work together better? How can they communicate better? Because an online game playing with other people is like, that's the fun.
Yeah, totally.
Absolutely. Chris nailed it on that one. That's exactly why people love to play multiplayer games, is the player-to-player interactions. So going back to some things that I've said on prior videos is they need to support more game mechanics that have more P2P, player-to-player, don't think dirty, player-to-player interactions. They need more of those game mechanics in the games. That's great, though, to hear that from Chris.
right? Not necessarily just doing it by yourself, or else you'd just be playing single
Yeah, I think
player,
so
right?
as well, Spartan.
VoIP, and VoIP is an example, but there's a lot of stuff like the multi-crew. You and your crew will have to operate a ship efficiently,
like
so you're in combat and fires are breaking out, or you've got to replace fuses that are broken or fuel rods that have gone out. Your crewmates can run around and keep the ship going in a way that you wouldn't be able to.
Yeah, we also talked about like longer quantum travels when you're traveling through space, and a couple episodes ago when they introduced the pieces of the ship, the components of the ship that would wear down or have damage to them, and that you would be able to replace and maintain them. What's up, Nori? How you doing, bro? How you doing? Welcome to the fam. I know who you are. You've already been here, dude. I know who Nori is. You're joining again with an alt, aren't you, buddy? But you know, this is going to be really interesting to see develop.
To do otherwise, and that's like the advantage of a multi-crew ship versus a single-seater ship. We're working as hard as we can to get all the bits in place, so all that sort of starts to work. It's not going to be quite there with 3.6, but there'll be still more stuff happening with that.
Yeah, totally. Do we have any, one of the things we talk about a lot per quarter is the polish or quality of life. We're trying to inject as much as we can in each quarter release.
A really cool thing for me on the vehicle side is we've brought back the acceleration throttle. So we talked about this at CitizenCon.
Yeah.
It's essentially a throttle that controls your acceleration and thrust.
That's cool.
Directly drives how maneuverable your ship is.
Because the variable thrust was my suggestion. Previous design was cruise control, like you set the speed you want to be at and then the ship tries to achieve it. In the real world, I don't get in my car and set cruise control to 20 and then 30 or 50 or 100. I use the accelerator and I'm adjusting the power that my engine's putting out, which is the equivalent of the force that my thruster's putting out. And also if you're flying an aircraft, you're generally, you know,
always at 100%.
Yeah, you're not at 100%.
What's
so
up, Michael? Welcome to the stream, bro.
So like you'd be more affecting the thrust, which was the original design and setup, which is what we had at CitizenCon. But then in the playback in combat, which tends to happen, everyone just basically has it 100%. And so we had a debate, and I was like, okay, well, I'll let you guys go with this. But then there's other reasons to be able to have the adjustment. And then I was like, look, why not have both? You know, insert appropriate meme right now. Yeah. But because there's no reason why you can't set, okay, here's what my limit is and here's what my thrust is.
You can do some really nice little things with it. You can do soft landings.
Yeah.
Just reduce that thrust and you just gently fall out rather than slamming down.
Speaking of soft landings, the new
VTOL
hover mode is going to.
Seems like it, Red.
Game that
seems like it.
of what we see in the movies.
Here's the thing. This is great for them to do, because anytime you're getting the people that are really in charge of the project and they get to discuss the details out this in the open, this is something that should happen on the regular. I hope this Pillar Talk series will continue to be something that they do, maybe not every week, but at least maybe once a month. I'm not quite sure what they plan. I'm not quite sure what they plan on this. I think this is about 20 minutes long, Spartan.
It's a little bit of a wobble, and it moves
is it quarterly?
So
okay, that's fine. That's fine. Thank you, Michael. Thank you.
Switches into it. Yeah, you have this sort of hover mode.
I'm fine with this even quarterly. Like as long as they come out every once in a while and they have these talks so that we can see the people who are in charge and they're talking about the details, I'm fine. 4 times a year, fine. As long as they're doing this and they're actively engaging the people that are backing the game, us, I'm cool with it.
It's pretty
What's
cool.
up, Sky? Welcome to the stream, bro.
Motion we have at the moment where you're strafing around, up, down. You're
it does,
tilting, rolling.
That's great.
If you pitch forward, you'll move forwards.
That's great, yeah.
Slightly change the way shields work in 360. I won't get into the deep details of it.
Yeah.
Essentially, it allows the behaviors of the shields to come through. So at the moment, most ships come with 2 of the same shield.
Yeah.
But if you wanted to change them to have 2 ones with radically different behaviors, before 3.6, they just sort of summed their behaviors together. You just ended up with this weird hybrid that didn't have any character. Whereas now, if you put one that has really fast regeneration but low health, and the complete opposite, you will notice those behaviors from those 2 shield generators.
That's really cool.
Unfortunately, a few things aren't going to make 3.6. So the Defender's moving to 3.7. It's our first Banu ship.
Yeah, exactly.
We tried to apply our current pipeline techniques to it, and it really didn't work.
We don't.
So they're talking about changing ship configurations or different ship shield boosters, shields on the ship. So you'd have like shields that didn't have huge buff to them but had faster regen, or vice versa. Interesting, because then that makes you think about how you're going to outfit your ship. You know, if you have a smaller ship, if you have a larger ship. It's quite an interesting change here.
feel like it's getting there.
Yeah.
We're not pushing it out there because I think that's one of the defining, it's quality. Like, that's what we want to do. So it's okay when we're putting stuff out that we're iterating on. There's definitely stuff that we're not happy with, but we need people to play and give us feedback. And we're also like some things like we talked about making the UI good. But we still have to have UI in the game, so it's better to have some older
version of it,
or slightly broken UI than no UI at all, which would be a problem. But in the case of something like a new ship, no, we don't want to put out the ship unless we're happy with it. Going forward, we don't really want to rush features or content.
All of us want to make it perfect before we release it, but at the same time, we want to keep giving the community a reason to come back and play the game on a regular basis. So you're trying to find these intermittent points where this is a complete game experience. We can ship that, then we iterate, et cetera.
Yeah, so I'm
Red collar.
Defender. So, if we look at when we set the timeline, because I think we were going to release it in the last patch, right? I think we based that all on our normal. So to your point of ship pipelines, like with all planning, right? You're like, here's all my ships, and here's how big they are. We have our assessments, and we know our pipeline really well.
We've done enough ships now. We know it's a small ship from this manufacturer. It's going to take this many months.
And we got this kit to do all of our kit bashing.
And we didn't have any of that for the.
So that's really cool. They're streamlining ship production so that ships are coming out faster. It's a good conversation that I plan on making a video about, where we're talking about like the experiences of the game that we know. I won't get into details on it, but it's directly related to ship sales. So like our experiences in the alpha, I believe, are directly related to the amount of money that people are spending. It seems like it's a common sense thing to say, but a lot of people disagree with that. And I always am fascinated by like the response to that, because you've got a majority of people that don't understand that people who are coming into this game right now, it's the PU. And that's what we're playing. So the better experiences in the PU, I think the better the sales for their ships. And then the narrative of that we're hearing where, like less ship sales and more experiences in the game actually, will start to mesh back together, because then you're going to have people that are going to want to buy the ships. Hey, welcome to the fam, Slider. Welcome to that fam, dude. I forgot about this alert. Forgot about that one. Okay, let's watch.
There's just so many challenges with it that almost every single step of the way we were hitting roadblocks on the outside.
No,
It's the first Banu ship.
You're so cool, dude.
The guys working on it have been very mindful that it's not the only Banu ship, so they can't just build it.
Exactly, Red. And that's what my next video is going to deal on, Red.
Benefit the merchant as well.
Right, and all Banu ships, cool.
Yep.
On an 890 jump.
890 jump. That's also not going to hit 3.6 on release day. Just needs.
It's not going to hit 3.6 on release day. 890 Pimp ship. We love our 890 Pimp. The 890 Pimp is going to be the party boat, the flagship party boat for the Games clan, man. We're going to go party in this thing. We're swimming in this thing. It's going to be delayed, but this is our Pimp ship. This is the DG Pimp ship. Parties are going to be had on this.
Needs more time. There's a lot of stuff in there. It's like 199 meters.
He is dying his hair, Spartan. He is.
And places for doing all sorts of other business.
Other business.
Other business.
Just general 890 business.
890 business.
Whatever your 890 business would be.
We've been talking about a pass that goes beyond structure, which is kind of what it is now. How do you have more richer, luxurious materials? What kind of props can you put in? The paintings on the walls. Make it feel like a super yacht,
so
which is
sassy.
what it is.
Cool. Is there anything we
Damn
want
it,
to add
Chris's head
to
got in the way.
customization-wise? Like we've kind of talked about a little bit about the future and about what we planned for it. Anybody, this is a discussion, gentlemen.
Well, a big one in 351, we snuck it into 351 rather than holding it for 3.6 where it was originally planned, was basically the persistence of your ship's loadout.
Yeah.
That came about specifically because one of our designers, Rob Reiniger, was making the point that there was just tons of chatter from the community that was one of the most often requested features. And so we basically slotted that to the top of the list. And then the next step of this didn't roll out with the initial feature. The initial thing was just whatever your configuration is, it will persist that. So when your ship gets destroyed, lost, you go claim another one, you get a carbon copy of it. In the future, it'll look at the base value of your ship.
Your deductible will be different different based on
Exactly. You'll pay a
the value of
differential.
the items.
Yeah, the accounting service part of that is done. We're already calculating the appropriate prices. What we're really missing is all the UI, the player-facing feedback. Once we've got those elements, we'll roll them in, and then players will start to see, oh, well, I've got LTI insurance on this ship up to this amount of value, and so if I add additional value beyond that, then I pay some percentage of that on a recurring basis in order to guarantee that all of that extra stuff will be outfitted on my ship when I go.
Yeah, and I think what we'll do is, because we were originally thinking, well, you would buy additional insurance for the extra weapons, but it's better to do it this way, which is your insurance covers whatever your ship's on, but there'll be some adjustment in the deductible or the expediting fees. Based on the value of all the equipment. And then on the cargo insurance, what we really should do is you would have the opportunity, just like if I buy something online right now, do I want to have travel insurance? So if I'm at the commodities kiosk or whatever, and I'm going, give me 100 SCUs of gold or something, it says, do you want to, for an extra 10% or 20%, do you want to insure your load? It's not 10 or 20%. I'm giving.
Did he just say, do you want to insure your load on Pillar Talk? Sorry, I had to go there.
Yeah, example. Then you just have this trade-off. You go, oh, yeah, I don't think I'm going to get attacked, or I'll be fine, so I don't really want to spend the money, or, well, I'd like to insure myself. It's the same as, you want to take insurance
it's
on
that player
your
choice
rental
again.
car.
Do you want to basically live on the edge, take the chance, go out there? If you lose
Colleen
your
got
cargo, you literally lost all of that value.
Speaking of rentals, it's not going to be quite there with 3.6. We'll also have ship rental. Kind of cool because ships just inherently are expensive. They have to be for the economics to work. But that means it's a fair amount of earning money in the game, which is always problematic when we reset the account.
You can only save up for a couple of months, and then we reset things. It's very difficult to save up.
And to be clear, there will be server-side
Yeah.
OCS. When that is working, then you'll have true persistence.
Oh boy, this is a big
We
one.
have to have true persistence in the game because the server has to know exactly the state when it throws it out of memory, and then it restores from that state. So once we're persisting the state of the universe to a database when things are going on a server, that means we have true persistence. Probably round about that point of time is where we'll stop resetting everyone's database so people can earn money towards accumulating ships and everything.
This is a big issue. You see the intense stares that Chris and Tony are giving each other right now when they're talking about this. This is very intense, the looks when they're talking about the server side issues.
But until then, ship rental is pretty cool because it's a way to get into a expensive ship much sooner. And even in the final game, it will be useful because if you're playing a game and you want to try something, you could rent it, or you could get into a bigger, a better ship, have a higher earning potential before you have the money to necessarily buy it outright.
Yeah, good.
Quite a few.
Before we wrap this up, maybe some progress reports on any of the, so we're talking long term here. Does anybody have any updates on any of this stuff, that where we're at and how things are going?
They're working on it.
They're
I
working.
mean, it's a lot.
Right.
I mean,
Thanks, everybody.
So, as I said, server-side meshes and persistence go together.
Yeah.
That's a big project. Server-side OCS is fundamental for the meshing, the static meshing and fully dynamic meshing, which is where we want to end up. It's a big development effort because the core team's implementing it. They do their stuff, but there's a lot of game code that has to adjust to make.
This is making me kind of nervous when they're talking about this. It sounds like they're having issues inside. They're looking at each other. Chris and Tony are looking at each other. So this is definitely something that they're getting hung up on. I can tell just by the interactions between Tony and Chris.
Make sure it works with the new paradigm, because the client OCS has the ability to always know the server has a full authoritative state of the entire universe or the entire star system at any one time. But the moment that we move to server OCS, it won't, because that server may only have a portion of the star system, for instance, in its memory. And that means that different variables have to be classified differently to persist, because you can't always count on the server having a definite record of it. So that's some of the game code has to be adjusted to make sure that it's safe for that kind of setup. Once the persistence and the server meshing is in place, that's the last piece of the tech. And once the persistence is in there, we're going to stop wiping accounts, and so people can actually be playing, earning towards something, accumulating wealth, accumulating items and ships.
So to wrap this up, why is this worth the wait? Why do I want to wait?
This will completely change everything because all of a sudden you're playing with thousands of people. In other words, you're no longer confined to a little island universe. Like right now, ironically, the more points of interest we add, the more separated the player community becomes. In other words, we double the number of areas, but we didn't change the server cap. And so all of a sudden the players are just spread out more. And so now for the foreseeable future, you may not be able to put gargantuan number in the exact same area, but that doesn't really matter with 3.6. What really matters matters, I think, is I go to the asteroid field and there's a lot of players over there. And then I go to Port Olisar and there's a lot of guys there. And then I go over to ArcCorp and there's a lot of guys over there. And so wherever you go, you run into new people, you form relationships, or you trade things, or you go off on adventures together. And all of a sudden you've got people that have a criminal rating. Having a criminal rating when there's a relatively small number of people on your...
That's a really fun thing to talk about, Spartan. Spartan says the real question is, how much money can I get for finding a new star system jump point and documenting all the planets there? I'm not quite sure, you know, what the type of game mechanics are going to be involved, but a long time ago, what had been discussed, Spartan, is that you're going to be able to save these types of points in your nav computer or in your system, and that essentially they're like bookmarks, very similar to the way Eve was. And then you can take those bookmarks, for lack of a better term, and then you can sell them to people. So we can tell that that's going to be a long way down the road, Spartan. You know, like what they're talking about is, you know, obviously they're talking about the little island solar system of Stanton that we all know. I think there's other work being done, honestly, in terms of the content for other systems. I don't think they're releasing any of it because obviously the test ground is Stanton, is the PU right now that we know it. We showed a video a year or so ago where they are working on Terra, so we know that they're working on Terra. So I'm pretty sure that other work is actually being done in other systems, and they're just, you know, keeping it. They're just holding on to it. But exploration is definitely one of those areas where you've got about 60-ish% of gamers that are interested in exploration. Exploration is going to be should be top priority game mechanic as well as economics. Like, I'm all about the economy. Like, the economy has to have player-to-player transactions in order for most industrialists to be interested, you know? So this is almost the end here.
Your server is not particularly threatening.
Sounds
in the future,
sticky.
having a big price on your head when there's thousands of other people that can basically accept the contract to bring you in and basically get paid for it.
That's
now,
cool.
All of a sudden, you're really at risk.
That's cool.
And this carries through to everything. The entire
That's so
game.
cool, man. The game mechanics behind like bounty hunting and this law system should be really interesting how it's introduced. I think when it's introduced in 3.6 with the 19 new laws, you're going to see a lot more scanning of the local NPC UEE. I think you're going to see, I think it's going to be sloppy AF, honestly, but at least it's cool that they're going to insert it into 3.6 along with the new illicit goods. And I'm curious to see how that's going to work with the stations that you're going to be able to, you know, buy and sell things from. So I'm going to get into videos that are regarding that type of content.
Becomes infinitely more interesting.
So thank you guys for joining us. Thanks to the subscribers and backers, obviously.
That was cool. That was cool.
Let's get back
a little
to
bit
work,
more details. Like, I'm
go.
always about details.
Ready.
Ready.
I'm not going to do that.
That when they mentioned the prisons, you know, like going to prison, like players going to prison, that's cool. I'm not quite sure what the game mechanics are going to be involved in going to prison. Could you imagine you do something, you get thrown into a jail and you're just sitting there? Like, is that the game mechanic where you sit in the jail and you rot for a bit thinking about how stupid of a decision that you made? That would be kind of cool in a way. You'd have a whole bunch of gamers get pissed off though if they were just literally sitting in a jail. So I'm pretty sure they're going to speed things up time-wise and probably slap some serious creds, a fine on you, so you have to pay some serious creds. But this was kind of fun. I'm glad that they got into a lot more of the nitty gritty. I needed that. And hopefully, you know, by the time we hit the next quarter, it should be interesting to see what we think of 3.6. I don't know if jail is so dumb, honestly. I kind of like the idea of jail because it does make people who are on the seedier side think about what it is that they're doing. But, you know, how stiff the fines are going to be and what the actual mechanic is after you get thrown into jail should be quite interesting to see. That's going to be a hot topic. Somebody like myself who plays a little bit more seedy as a pirate, it's going to be something that I might hesitate certain kind of actions about, depending upon how crazy it's going to be. So, yeah, no playing for a week, says Sky. Yeah, I just that's funny, dude. Hey everybody, I had a great time chilling out with you guys. Thanks for joining me here. Just kind of like in a little impromptu stream. It was nice to see Chris and Tony in the same room talking a little bit of details. I will be posting this on my YouTube channel. Thank you all for the support. Colleen, thanks for those 500 biddies. I love you. I'm glad to see you again. Nori, awesome. Thanks for the follow again, bro. Slider, and thank you for the follow, guys. And don't worry, I'll be doing more streams, guys. I'm getting much more active. Check out my YouTube channel. I'm going to pump out a new vid tomorrow, hopefully. And content is staying fresh and professional. Thanks, guys.